Okay, so I'm James and my project is nanomeet, which is a simple way for people to create a lightweight page for their event or meetup, where they can also accept Bitcoin Lightning Network payments from attendees before or during the event from a price list they set up. Okay, so yeah, I hadn't done any Bitcoin development before this residency, and everything here was just built during the week, so it's still quite rough around the edges. Okay, so this first example is someone hosting a yoga workshop, and a few things they're selling here, like an entry ticket, but also potentially someone might want to buy like a yoga mat or a book that the person's authored. And the flow is really simple, so I'm coming here as a guest. I've never seen the site before. I just came to a URL that was shared for the event. I can add something to my cart. It's more, yeah, it's like a bit like a shopping cart in that you can sort of combine things together, add or remove, change the quantities and stuff like that. And when you're ready, check out, which generates a Lightning invoice, which I'll just pay through my phone now. This is deployed on testnet, by the way. Okay. Cool, so that's just gone through. And then the idea is, if I now log in as the host who was running this event, the main thing I can see here is all the events I've hosted and all the purchases that have come through for those events and the individual items that were purchased. And it's just quite a simple model here where I've got a little redeem button so I can keep track of which purchases have been redeemed and which I've given to people and which still need to be fulfilled. And at the top here I've got a balance in Satoshis which I can just request to be withdrawn. I've not got around to this part of the implementation yet, but the idea would be that would try to find a route to send it to the host, or if that's not available, it would just open a direct channel with them. Okay, another example. So this is how it could be used for something super informal. So I'm just trying to organize a trip to a film with some friends, and I just put an event page up for it so that they can pay for tickets through the app to me, and then I can purchase a load of seats together. Just allows them to buy them in advance and without having to remember to like bring cash to me on the day or anything like that. And I think this is like more usable to me than something like Facebook, which I don't really like using because you have to sort of attach huge amounts of personal data just to say, whether you want to RSVP to an event or not. But this, you could use it pretty much anonymously. I think the only requirement would be when you're making the purchase, it's probably going to need to ask you for like a nickname or whatever, just some identifier so the host knows who it was who was purchasing it. But there's no requirement for you to fill in your full name or credit card number or anything like that. One final example. So this is like potentially a bigger conference and they've got a lot of stalls that are selling like food or drink. So just the idea is that everything's itemized there, and then throughout the event when you want to purchase something you can just click ads, check out now, and you'll get given an invoice that you can pay through your phone. So this should potentially remove some of the bottleneck you get sometimes of like vendors having to deal with credit card payments on like a specific device. This can just be done through any phone, and people can do it without, like, they can sort of make the purchase before they go and stand in the queue. So it's just speeding everything up really. Yep. So now onto some slides. Yep. So to compare this with potential alternatives, compared to card payments, I just find the user interface, or user experience for filling out cards, it's very long, kind of error prone, just a lot of time kind of wasted every time you visit something new having to fill that out, whereas this is just an invoice that you can copy into any wallet app. And like I said before, if you do it in person, you're having to deal with specific credit card readers. And of course, it's compared to Lightning and Bitcoin in general, it's just insecure. If someone sees your card number, higher fees and less anonymous. And yeah, compared with cash, I think the benefit is the products can be listed in advance. So it means someone organizing an event can sort of sell things in advance, get more of an idea of what sort of volume they're going to be doing, just upsell in advance more. and they're just going to get. I think they're going to get more sales anyway, because some people just won't have cash on the day, won't want to spend cash on the day, but there's just less things to be done in advance. And of course, it's a pain to carry around the exact amount of cash and deal with change when you're making a transaction. Okay, so the challenge that I had trying to implement this. So when I first had the idea, I didn't know that much about the Lightning implementation, so I sort of naively assumed I could just kind of help relay transactions a little bit from the hosts to the attendees. But it turns out, I've really got to have that involved process of receiving and then sending out to the host when they have a node that's online or choose to withdraw or something like that. So that does make the experience better for the attendees, because I can just generate an invoice, they pay me any time. But it creates a lot of work for me, I guess, to then manage paying that out to the hosts. The kind of transaction sizes here are quite big, so typically at an event, things you sell might go for like a couple of dollars up to, say, well, if it's like a ticket for the event, it could be hundreds potentially. So maybe the Lightning Network capacity isn't ideal at the moment for routing such large payments, but I've not tested this out on mainnet yet, so I don't know, and I'm sure that will get better as more big channels open in future. Another issue is this sort of idea of having to keep liquidity on my server to open up channels to pay out hosts. So like a way that wouldn't really work would be if every time a host wanted to make a withdrawal, I just open a channel for that exact amount with them. Like, that would be pointless. I might as well just do an on-chain transaction. So I'd probably want to open a bigger channel with them in case I want to make further payouts to them in future. But of course that means someone's got to provide that liquidity, which is probably going to be me, and that means there's sort of a lot of funds sitting on my server that are sort of a potential vulnerability if that ends up getting hacked or something. But I feel like some of the potential future developments of Lightning, like Sphinx sending and channel splicing, might help with this. Yeah, and just for future direction of where I might want to take this, I think it would be good if, I just didn't have time, but if you could RSVP through the website as well, that would be great. Then it would sort of replace all the functionality of what Facebook events are really used for. So the ability to just invite people, have them RSVP to your events on that page would be great. And then you could maybe even send funds. You could just see a list of all the other attendees and just send funds between them. So if it's someone you're just an acquaintance with, but you happen to be at an event with them, you can easily pay someone for a beer or whatever. More redemption options, like a sort of QR code that the attendee can show to the host and they scan it to redeem the product rather than just clicking a redeem button. But yeah, in general, I'll just basically keep it flexible and I'll try and release it, see what people use it for, and let that drive the direction of what I do with it next. Yep, that's it. Thank you. Any questions? Yes?
Have you considered falling back to Bitcoin payments for event tickets and keeping the small add-on type stuff in Lightning? And have you thought about how you manage the user experience of having two separate ways of doing that?
That's a good point. I've not really thought about that, to be honest, but yeah, that's built into Lightning invoices themselves, I think. So yeah, that'd be a good idea, I guess, having a fallback Bitcoin address in there that just comes through to my server, but just as a on-chain transaction. Thanks.